In 1961, President Kennedy called on all Americans to rise to the challenges of the day. He knew that success depended upon the unity of efforts throughout the federal government and the nation. In a memorandum he wrote, "I want coordination of government activities outside of Washington significantly strengthened across departments and agency lines." From this, federal executive boards were born. The Greater Boston Federal Executive Board, one of 28 across the country, fosters communication, coordination, and collaboration with federal, state, and local government agencies. It is our hope that through this series, folks will learn about the mission and work done by different agencies, what that means for our country, and more specifically, what that means to each of us as individuals. This is your federal government, and I am your host, Diane LeBlanc.
It is an honor to present to the court the applicants to take the oath of allegiance today, representing 56 different nationalities.
Ecuador, Somalia, France.
What makes us Americans?
China.
And what makes people from all over the world want to become U.S. citizens?
Senegal.
The U.S. Constitution, a 4-page document written more than 200 years ago, is part of the reason. We the people. These are the first 3 words of the United States Constitution, a document that defines the structure of the U.S. government and is the foundation for the freedoms and responsibilities of U.S. citizens.
Hello everyone. Today we are featuring the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, which is part of the Department of Homeland Security. I am very pleased to have 2 representatives from this agency with us today. Dorothy Michaud, who is the Director of the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services Boston Field Office, and William Kelley, who is the Director of the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services Lawrence Field Office. Welcome to you both. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Dorothy, you've got 36 years with the agency, so I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
Tell folks a little bit about the history of the agency and its fundamental mission.
Okay. The Homeland Security Act of 2002 basically dismantled the former Immigration and Naturalization Service, an agency under the Department of Justice. And with the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, 3 components were born, basically: the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, known as ICE, and the Customs and Border Protection, known as CBP. And the mission of the USCIS has always been to secure America's promise as a nation of immigrants, and we continue doing that by providing useful and important information to the public, and by processing applications and benefits for various benefits under the Immigration and Nationality Act.
For more than 200 years, the U.S. Constitution has had daily impact on the lives of citizens. And over time, its promise of freedom has included more and more people. Many groups of people were denied certain freedoms in the past, but have gained equality through amendments to the U.S. Constitution. It took 75 years and a civil war to end slavery. And it was another 100 years until laws were passed to make it illegal to discriminate against people based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. In 1965, the Voting Rights Act made sure that every U.S. citizen would be allowed to vote. At the same time, the United States removed many unfair restrictions on immigration. This allowed legal immigrants from all over the world to come to America and make this country their home. From early settlers to to today's immigrants. The freedoms guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution have drawn many people to this country. With each person who joins the nation, we the people become stronger.
Now, I was actually there at the ceremony when the agency made that change from the old agency to the new agency as part of the Department of Homeland Security. And as you say, it took one entity and it split it up into three. So what is your relationship with those other two parts, ICE and Customs and Border Protection?
On March 1st, 2003, USCIS basically took over the processing and the granting of the various benefit applications that people apply for, the immigrant services for the government. And ICE basically deals with internal enforcement, and CBP is working at the border, and they're processing applicants that are applying for admission to come into the United States.
So you are the director of the Boston field office, and Bill, you are the director of the Lawrence field office. Are there other field offices in Massachusetts?
Not at this time.
Okay, so it's about the operation that the both of you run and your staff. Bill, I was actually there. Yours is the newer of the two locations in Lawrence. I believe you opened in September of 2009.
We moved up 2009 and we opened for business September. We started our first interview up there September 2009.
So I was lucky enough to have a tour, a very impressive location. Why was Lawrence chosen as a location?
Actually, it was pretty much a zip code analysis to determine where the bulk of our customers would be located in the state. And it ended up Lawrence seemed to be an ideal location, a very big immigrant population. And when you looked at the zip code analysis, the state kind of divided up between Dottie's office, you'd say from 128 in Gloucester to the ocean till it hooked up to 90, the Mass Pike. Dottie's shop is everything south of that, all the way down to the Cape. And mine would go from Gloucester or above that all the way out to the New York border.
Okay.
And population-wise, Boston is much bigger as far as they're twice the size of us. They don't work twice as hard as us, but they're twice as size.
I'm sure Dorothy might say otherwise.
Say otherwise.
So
it broke up the work pretty well, distributed pretty well, and for ease of getting to and from, it works out pretty well.
It's nice to have more than just the Boston office for folks to go into.
We both have public transportation. Boston has a real transportation hub. We do have some public transportation nearby, and
good.
not too much on-street parking there, but there is some, and plenty of paid parking there for both shops.
Parking is a challenge in most communities. So, Dorothy, the types of services that Citizenship and Immigration Services provides, what are the services?
The services that we provide are we process applications for naturalization for people wishing to become a citizen of the United States, and also applications for people that are already a citizen of the United States, derivative people that become citizens through the operation of law. We process people applying to bring their family members into the United States for the immigrant process, for employers wishing to bring foreign workers into the United States. Not all of these applications are handled at the district or the field offices. Some of them are handled at our service centers. We also manage many humanitarian programs, TPS, temporary protected status, to allow people that can't return to their country for civil unrest or other disruptions to stay in the United States, asylum and refugee status. And then we also provide services for outreach for the community-based organizations. We work with them to help provide information to our customers.
So now, Bill, Dorothy talked about a variety of different services, but mentioned that not all of them are provided by the local field offices. Which of those services are provided by the local field offices?
Well, we're both full-service offices. As I say, Dottie's got the biggest shop, but we both do the same. We have interviews daily for citizenship and for adjustment of status, which would confer lawful permanent resident on people, make them immigrants. We also have we cover fingerprints right in the Lawrence office with the Application Support Center for Fingerprints and Biometrics, which is part of the process. It's just a short walking distance from the Boston office where they provide the same. Now, when you come in there, we also have what we call InfoPass, and people can get access to an appointment by coming in, making out an appointment, and requesting. If you saw those long lines of years ago, those are gone. People can make an appointment, come down, and be guaranteed that they're going to get, if they have a question, we're going to deal with the question and give them an answer in a timely fashion. And I think that what I'd like to stress at this point is you can go on the website and check our website and check the status of your case, but you want to make sure you're specifically going on our website, USCIS.gov. That may save you a trip down. In any event, it's in at least 12 different languages. If you want to make an appointment, if you want to check things on that website, it'll save you a trip down. And the public is welcome to come in. We have an information room, reception room, and as I say, we try to get people to make appointments in advance. And plus, the customers can schedule right in our office if they want to make a future appointment. We have a toll-free number that I should give out because it saves a lot of people a lot of time. 1-800-375-5283. And there's a credible amount of information available on the website I mentioned. And we also have a website for the hearing impaired, which is a separate number. The military members have their own helpline there. And we have a special one also for adoptions.
Okay. So thank you for that. The Boston office, I know, is in the JFK Federal Building. I'm in there on a regular basis, and I do see not the lines that you saw before. Now that you can go online and you can do so much, but folks need to know, they need to be prepared to go through security consistent with a federal building. And Bill, do you have similar security procedures up at your location?
Yeah, it's like every federal building and most government buildings, you can count on a security check when you get there. And to make things easier, they should bring a valid identification with them. If they have an appointment notice, they should bring that and follow the instructions on the appointment notice. They should also, knowing that we have the Application Support Center in-house, knowing that's where their fingerprints and biometrics will be taken for Lawrence, a short walk from the Boston office. They're both within walking distance of public transportation. And if they need an interpreter, this is important, they should bring a reliable interpreter with them. Because, as I say, that we have different languages on the website, but when it comes for an interview or questions asked, if they need an interpreter, they should bring one reliable with them. They should also bring a valid ID for the interpreter, and they should be over 18 years of age. If there's a pending application, often the officer will be able to make a decision at that time. So if they're coming with a question about a case-specific application that's already filed with us, they should bring any information they can with it, and maybe they can get it wrapped up all in one sitting when they come there.
Okay, so you've said some things that sort of raise a lot of questions for me. I mean, again, I think the basic message here is that to the extent that people can, they really should use the online services. But for those that might not be comfortable with sort of the computer access and whatnot, they can come into one of the locations. And I think I heard that they can come in even if they don't have a scheduled appointment to get information and to get some help. Is that correct? Dorothy, why don't you just walk us through the process? You know, for so many people, becoming a citizen is the ultimate goal. But how, what does that process look like? How does it usually begin?
Generally, applying for naturalization it's a personal choice. Not everyone is required to, nor does everybody want to apply to become a citizen of the United States. However, we strongly encourage that, and we provide great support for people that are wishing to become citizens. The basic requirements for someone to become a citizen is they must be 18 years of age. They must have been a lawful permanent resident of the United States for 5 years. There are some exceptions to this rule. They also have to have been physically present in the United States for half of that time, minimum of 30 months. So if someone has had extensive travel, there could be some issues with whether they met the physical presence requirement. They need to be a person of good moral character. They have to demonstrate a knowledge and understanding of the history and government of the United States. And they have to be able to read, write, and speak English. There are some circumstances where someone can be, the English language requirements can be waived for them. If they've been a permanent resident for 15 years and they're 55 years old, it can be waived, and they can have the test and the interview in their own language. If they're 50 years of age and they've been a permanent resident for 20 years. And also if someone is 65 and has been a permanent resident for 15, there are some special accommodations that can be made for them.
But generally, somebody needs to be a permanent resident for at least 5 years before they can apply for citizenship.
Yes.
And assuming, so somebody's in this country, they're a permanent resident for 5 years, then they fill out that application. How long from the time they fill out their application, generally assuming that there are no issues, is it before they actually have their naturalization ceremony?
Generally, it's hopefully within 60 days. They come into the office for their interview. They've had their biometrics taken at a biometric center. They have their interview, and then if everything goes well, we schedule them for the naturalization ceremony, which is the last step. The whole process is generally concluded within 5 months. That's our processing time, that's our goal. And both offices, Boston and Lawrence, are well ahead of the 5-month processing time at this moment.
When you say biometrics, you mean fingerprints?
Fingerprints and photographs.
And photographs.
And signature, yes.
Okay. And at the Lawrence office, everything is right on site?
Yes.
But in the Boston office, it's not quite like that?
Right. Our ASC is just a brief walk, maybe 5 minutes from the federal building on Portland Street.
Okay. Now, what does it cost? What is the application fee?
The application fee for naturalization is $595. There's an $85 biometric fee.
Okay. And does somebody need to hire an attorney to go through this process?
It's not a requirement. Again, it's a personal choice. If someone feels that they would like the services of an attorney, they can hire an attorney. There are also other organizations, community-based organizations, that are approved by the service for helping immigrants get through the naturalization process and the permanent residence process, and they can go through, a pro bono organization. All of the pro bono organizations are listed on the EOIR, the Executive Office of Immigration Review website, which can also be accessed through our own website. We do strongly encourage anybody seeking assistance in filling out an application or being represented before USCIS that they ensure that the person they're working with is reputable, is licensed in the state, is accredited by the agency. We do have an initiative, a very important initiative that we're working on right now with the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Federal Trade Commission, on the unauthorized practice of immigration law. So what we can say at this point is that if you're going to use an attorney or representative, please make sure that they're authorized to practice immigration law.
That is such good advice. I picked up this brochure, and you have, in front of us, there are just so many resources that are out there and available to folks. But this one in particular, it tells folks what to watch for, because there are attorneys out there who are just really looking to take advantage of folks who are in this situation. So that certainly is good advice. So the naturalization ceremony itself, I have been fortunate enough to be present at 7 over my time with the federal government, and they've all been a little bit different at different locations, but they have all been just so amazingly uplifting to just, see these folks. And how many of these do you do a year in Massachusetts, and how many new citizens do you naturalize?
Well, the naturalization process and the naturalization ceremony is the most rewarding part of our job. There's no doubt about that. In Boston, we do generally 2 a month. Most of our ceremonies take place in Faneuil Hall. We'll do 400, 450 applicants in Faneuil Hall. We also have 2 large ones a year, generally. This year we'll have a large one at the Seaport, and we'll also have a large one in September at TD Garden. Lawrence has their own, they manage their own ceremonies. But we roughly do, Boston, all of Massachusetts does naturalizes about 25,000 people a year.
And nationwide?
On average. Nationwide, about 680,000.
That's phenomenal.
And of all the states, the largest population of applicants and people that are naturalized, Massachusetts is the 7th highest state for naturalizations in the country. So we do a lot of naturalizations.
Interesting. Well, at my agency, the National Archives and Records Administration, we're located in Waltham, and we did a renovation not that long ago. And as part of our sort of rolling out our new space, we held a naturalization ceremony. Now, we only had 50 new citizens were sworn in, but it was just a wonderful, wonderful day, and we were pleased to be part of it.
God bless America, my home, sweet home.
What's the role of the Vermont Service Center?
The Vermont Service Center is one of 4 service centers that we have, and the service centers have specialization units where they may specialize in specific types of applications and petitions, and we do that so that we can, fine-tune the knowledge and have experts in that area processing those applications. But most of the service centers also process a wide range of applications. The National Benefit Center is the service center basically where most people file their naturalization application, their application for permanent residence, and they start the whole process for us. Some of the applications are fielded out to the field offices or district offices, and others are handled through the service centers. It depends on the application that's being filed.
So if somebody is applying for whether it's a green card or citizenship, and they're in Massachusetts, they could conceivably be getting correspondence related to their case from locations outside of Massachusetts.
That's correct.
Other parts of the agency.
There's no application there's generally no application that is filed at the field offices any longer.
Okay. What about visitors to the United States? Somebody not interested in a green card, not interested in becoming a citizen, but interested in coming to visit family. Does your office get involved in that process?
Not in the initial step. There are millions of people that come to the United States for temporary purposes. They could be coming as a visitor, they could be coming as a student, they could be coming as a temporary worker. The first step for anyone wanting to come to the United States for temporary purposes is to visit the embassy or the consulate abroad. It's the embassy and the consulate that issue the visas for people to come to the United States for whatever temporary purpose they're coming for. What the USCIS does once those people are here, if they have a need to stay longer, if a visitor has been admitted for 6 months and wishes to stay longer, they would apply to USCIS for an extension of that time. If there's someone that's been a student in the United States and they wish to change to a temporary worker or they wish to change to a visitor to stay, they would apply to USCIS to change their status.
Okay. Now, I think Bill or Dorothy, one of you mentioned humanitarian programs, and I know a couple years back when there was a devastating earthquake in Haiti, there was tremendous outreach to the Haitian community along humanitarian lines. Tell me a little bit about some of those programs and what programs you're currently offering.
Okay, well, the humanitarian one you just mentioned for Haiti since January 2010, that is still in effect. It's been extended now to 2013 because of just no place for many of these people to go back to. And then more recently, we've had a similar occurrence with the Japan, with the tsunami in Japan, which was a year ago this month, so that people, it's kind of a humanitarian parole based on the conditions in their homeland. There are some other types of humanitarian benefits. We include refugee or asylum. They may be granted to people who have been persecuted for religious, political, or various reasons in their own country. And these people are actually handled by specially trained immigration officers, something more than the routine that we would deal with in our field offices. Also, we have for battered spouse, children, parents of U.S. citizens or permanent residents. They may file for an immigration benefit without the abuser's knowledge. Once again, these will be handled by immigration service officers that are trained in that. Victims of human trafficking and other victims of crime, also, they may receive immigration benefits, special cases, once again through someone other than our ISOs in our office. The humanitarian parole, we mentioned, it's used sparingly to bring someone otherwise inadmissible into the country for a temporary period during compelling circumstances. We have the temporary protective status granted to qualified people in the United States. Most recently, Syria's name is added to the list. There are other countries already on there that have been on there for a while. It's El Salvador, Nicaragua. There's a number that have TPS that have been continued.
What about foreign adoptions? What role does your office play in that regard?
Mm-hmm. The role of the USCIS in foreign adoptions is to ensure that the prospective adoptive parents are eligible to adopt, that they have resources, that they have proper home environment, and that they'll provide a good home for the children. And we also verify that the children that are being adopted abroad are actually orphans or actually eligible for adoption.
And how long does that process generally take?
Well, I can't answer that at this time. The process is now handled by the National Benefits Center. And there's there's actually 3 different types of adoption processes that could be requested. One would be a child coming in from a Hague country, a country that is signatory to the Hague Convention. The United States signed on to the Hague Convention effective, I believe it was April 1st, 2008. Mm-hmm. And that sets out certain requirements that need to be met. And if a prospective adoptive family wishes to adopt from a non-Hague country, there's a separate process for that. And the third way of bringing an adopted child in is as an immediate relative, filing an immediate relative family petition. So it really depends on the type of application process that the family needs to go to bring the child in.
Now, Bill was talking about the website earlier and the information that's out there. Information on adoptions, all of that can be found out there as well?
Yes, and we would highly recommend anybody wanting or needing information from USCIS to go to the website, because our website is very user-friendly. There is so much information on there. For naturalization, there's a Citizenship Resource Center where people can go download all of the questions that they need. There's a video on there about how the process and the interview is going to go for them. And then for bringing children into the United States, bringing family members into the United States, there's lots of information regarding how they go about petitioning and the process, and link them to the various applications that they need to file.
Now, if you want to check on the status of any application, can you check on the status online?
Yes, you can. When you go onto the website, on the left-hand side, there's some links. Mm-hmm. And one of the links is case status, checks case status. In order to check your case, you do have to have a receipt number. Every time you file an application with one of our service centers, you're issued a receipt number immediately, which is another service that we have at this time, and that is that if a person filing an application wishes to have an email sent to them or a call to their cell phone when the application is received, the service will do that. And when you pull up the form that you're filing, there's a special form that will be linked to that says if you'd like to have this service, complete the form and provide your email address and your phone number, and the service will do that.
That's so great because, yes. I mean, I remember years ago I used to hear more frequently, well, I filed, but I don't know what the status is. And now, you know, you're getting information in a more timely way if you're signing up to get that information.
And the service is truly making an effort to transform the way that we're doing business. We're working with transformation, total transformation. We already have a lot of, you know, electronic applications that they can file electronically, applications that can be filed electronically, this type of service that we provide, checking the case status online, and eventually, you know, we will be moving into a web-based service.
Now, again, what if people really do want to come into the office for whatever reason? That they make an appointment online? What is that process called?
Well, there are different processes for different offices. In the Boston field office, if someone needs to come in and wishes to come in and speak to an information officer, they do need to make an appointment through InfoPass. Okay. We fill up our calendars daily. We have 100 appointments a day, and they're always filled up. So we ask that they make an appointment when they know they need to come in. They make an appointment. You can only make it 2 weeks out. So if they're interested in coming in, they need to make an appointment within the 2 weeks. We don't take walk-ins unless it's an emergency. We always entertain helping people that have an emergency need to come in. That we will do. But generally, just so that we can track the people we have, that we can provide efficient and useful customer service to the people that are coming in, we do require an appointment.
Okay. Now, what about dual citizenship? What is dual citizenship? Why would somebody be allowed to have dual citizenship?
Well, dual citizenship is when a person is a citizen of two countries. And while the United States doesn't recognize dual nationality, the laws of a country define whether a person is a citizen of that country or not. When someone becomes a citizen of the United States and they take the oath of allegiance and they declare their allegiance to the United States, if the government finds that they will discharge their duties and support and defend the United States, then we will naturalize them. That doesn't mean that they're going to lose their citizenship in another country. It's the sovereign right of a country to determine who its citizens and who's entitled to, you know, have passports from those countries. So there are dual citizens, and generally if a citizen of the United States is a citizen of another country, when they travel to or from the United States, they should do that on a United States passport. And there are obligations and there are rights inherent in each country's laws.
Okay. So you've brought some stuff with you today.
We have.
What do we have? And civics flashcards for the new naturalization test. What's in this? What's the new naturalization test as opposed to the old one?
Well, the new naturalization test was created with educators and after a lot of fine-tuning on the questions to ensure that the questions are fair and that they're consistent throughout offices, and that if you study for the test in Massachusetts and you happen to move across country and have that test, what you studied in Massachusetts, you'll have the same test in every country, through every office throughout the country. So the flashcards basically are a way to help people study. And again, these are available on the Citizenship Resource Center on our website. The whole test is on there. The questions, writing samples, pamphlets, anything that you would need to study for this test is on that website. So the flashcards, we try to keep them very current, but of course some of the information does change. You know, we will ask questions on the senators, and those can change, House of Representatives, the president, any information that can change. We will change these cards as that information changes, but that would be something that someone would need to be aware of.
And again, I see that they're in English, and as you said earlier,
they are.
Pretty much for the most part, individuals need to be able to read, speak, and understand English in order to go through this process. There are exceptions depending upon age and other medical conditions possibly, correct?
Correct. But most of our material is available in other languages, Spanish and other languages as well. So, you know, it's worth going to the website and looking at the resources available to them in the various languages, because many of our forms and materials, they are, you know, available
now,
in many languages.
I think I heard you say 100 appointments a day?
We take, in Boston generally, between 100 and 125, because we also overbook for other type of appointments. So we generally see about 125 people a day in Boston.
So what is a typical day like?
A typical day is generally the interviews start, in the Boston office anyways, the interviews start at around 7:30. We have interviews for naturalization and permanent residence going on all day, usually from 7:30 to 3:30. And we'll have anywhere between 6 and 8 officers interviewing various types of applications. We also have officers that are working at the information counter, and they'll be providing the services at the information counter, answering questions through InfoPass, answering the service request management tool, which is another way a person can write into the service and ask for information on the status of their application or ask us to verify their records. They're processing those type of requests. It's just very busy. You never know from day to day what's going to be coming in the door.
How many employees do you have in the Boston field office?
We have about 70 in the Boston field office.
And Bill, about how many in Lawrence?
Counting the contractors at the ASC, we're just a little over 30 right now.
Okay, excellent. Now, 36 years with the agency.
36 years.
That's a long time.
It's a very long
She
time.
started
This is
she
your
started as a
first
child.
job right out of high school.
Oh, pretty much, right out of
So
college.
how did you come to be with this agency?
Well, back when before I joined the service, you had to take the test, just like you have to take a test now to come in, and I was hired as a clerk, and I was interested in becoming an officer. I worked in Portland, I worked in San Francisco. When I came back to Portland, I came back and became an immigration inspector, which is now a Customs and Border Patrol agent, someone that you meet when you come into the country. I was involved in the inspections program for almost 20 years. And then I became a district adjudications officer, which is the same position that our immigration services officers hold now, so that processing applications and interviewing people for the various benefits that we have. Went on to be a supervisor, went on to be a field office director in Providence, and I've been in Boston a year, just over a year now as the field office director.
Well, there you go.
It's been a long career. It's been a good career.
And that's nice to hear. You've certainly worked your way
Yes.
up as they say. Would you recommend this line of work to others? And if somebody is interested in working for the agency, what do you suggest they do?
And I'm sure Bill, we would highly recommend working for the agency. The agency is very diverse. It has a lot of opportunities for people to grow into a career, either through the internal field offices at the service centers overseas, processing refugees overseas. We have a very good process for.
Now,
Yes.
is it USA Jobs is how people would get into?
Yes.
So that's the portal for anybody who wants any type of federal agency position at this point in time. Everything needs to be posted out on USA Jobs. Yep. Bill, again, not quite as much time with the agency. So you had a career before this career?
Yes, I was a police officer
right.
for 26 years, a little over 26 years, and up fishing near the Canadian border, and I saw there was a border spot there. I said, that looks like a pretty good gig. Let me try getting into that. And I ended up at Logan Airport instead of up there. So I did that for a bit, an inspector, as Dottie was, and then I looked into the adjudications officer, as we were called then, and ended up down in Boston at the JFK building. And I've enjoyed it ever since.
Now, where were you a police officer?
A state police,
A state police officer?
Yeah, and it was. So this is the benefit side. You get to, Dottie mentioned how rewarding it is at the naturalization ceremonies, and it is. But when I first started as an adjudication, some of the most rewarding moments were when you could give a green card to someone that hadn't seen their kids in 6, 7 years and the tears streaming down their face. It's very, was emotional, and it's, there's two sides to the coin, but you know, it's, being in a benefits agency is not such a bad thing when you get to do some good.
Nice, nice, and we are a country of that's been built on the dreams of immigrants. Is there anything that I have not asked you that you think our viewing audience needs to know?
Just if they came down 10 years ago, the lines are no longer there. Those lines wrapping around the buildings are things of the past that the USCIS.gov system, the InfoPass. There's so many things now that, as Dottie mentioned, you can file your application for citizenship, and in less than 90 days, you're before an adjudicator, and you're sworn in less than 5 months. It's just amazing how quick things have changed with our new systems.
Do we give any special benefits to our active duty military?
Well, the military, any active duty military can file for naturalization. There is no fee for the service for military naturalizations. We also do a lot of military naturalizations overseas on the Air Force bases.
Nice.
So, and we also have benefits for the family members of the military.
And there's a special link on the website just for the military. Just
Right.
Excellent. Well, I don't know about you, but for me, this time has really just flown by, and we are out of time.
It has
Well,
flown
thank
by.
you.
Yeah,
Thanks for
I
having us
want to
here.
thank you both for being with us today, and I also want to thank everybody at home for watching. I hope that you found our program informative and that you will continue to watch as we feature other federal agencies on your federal government.
Together, we have built a free nation. We have been able to imagine, invent, and live our lives as we choose. We've been free to dream and make those dreams become real. All the while, we continue to debate, as the delegates did, the challenges that face a free nation. The Constitution protects our many freedoms. It also allows each person to decide how to use these freedoms. Whether you are a new immigrant or ready to apply for citizenship, freedoms and rights come with important responsibilities. Make a commitment to be part of your community. Get to know and help your neighbors. Discuss the issues that affect your community. Learn English. Learn about U.S. history and government, and respect the law. If you become a U.S. citizen, serve on a jury if you're called to do so, and vote. What makes us U.S. citizens? What makes us a nation? Why did you come to this land? Each of these questions reaches far into our shared history, to the birth of the United States, and to the document that protects and ensures our freedoms, the U.S. Constitution. And it begins with 3 words: we the people.
Our country now is better off than our country was a few minutes ago.